I'm coming up to bagpipes, by the way. You'll probably hear them in the background, but that's probably the most Scottish thing as well on your show.
Hi, I'm Vlad Bresnix, and welcome back to episode 13 of the BresnixCast. Now, if you're a metalhead, then today's episode is going to be right up your street, because my guest is Pedram Valiani from the excellent band Frontierer. Now, I should mention this right at the start of the episode. Pedram was out for a walk when we were recording, so there's some kind of noise and stuff you'll hear coming in, but you know, I've minimised unnecessary bits of that, and I've left some of it in because, you know, we do noise, we do ambient music in this show anyway, so there's no harm in throwing a bit of that in, I don't think. There's one or two bits as well where my audio's not the best, but it's not terrible or anything like that, so don't worry. And I'm investing in new gear, you'll be pleased to hear, so that's all going to improve. So anyway, before you hear Pedram and I get chatting, let's hear Frontierer. So from the album Orange Mathematics, this is Bunsen. So I am here with Pedram Valiani from Frontierer. Pedram, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks very much for having me.
Yep.
Looking forward to it, appreciate it.
First Scottish person on the show, finally. Only took like 13 episodes or something, but we got there in the end.
Breaking records.
All sorts of records, exclusives and everything. But why don't we start in the way I usually start? So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and how Orange Mathematics, I'm away at the album already, and how Frontierer got started?
So I've played guitar for quite a while now. Frontierer started because Chad Capper, who's a vocalist in Frontierer, we became friends through MySpace, and he heard a track from my other band Section. Like, we basically did a single years and years ago, just like MySpace, when MySpace was top for mathcore bands back in the day. Bring back MySpace Mathcore. Yeah, so that was back in the day, and Chad got in touch and asked to do vocals for Section. And while I appreciated it and stuff, I thought, nah, because the guy lives miles away. Literally, like, it's the most ironic thing ever, basically, that we have a band and we've played shows and stuff. So I don't really have a good excuse for Chad when it comes to that situation. So we decided to do a single track together that wasn't either of our bands, his band, The Dark Orbit, or my band, Section. And that evolved from a single into what is now Frontierer. We did a first EP together called The Collapse. It was basically one long track divided up into loads of mini grindcore length tracks. There wasn't a lot of thought put into that at the time. And after that, it turned into Orange Mathematics because we decided that we wanted to. I decided, I was like, we need to write an album of this material. And I can write a lot more, songy kind of stuff. So I went back and wrote an album. In terms of me, myself, like I said, I've been playing guitar for years. Up until recently, I worked as an engineer for like a global consultancy, and then I worked for an investment bank, a large global investment bank. Hated that. Now I've set up my own recording studio, which is Outlier Sound. And I'm recording bands essentially downtime between planning tours and releases and things. So quite excited to be doing that and basically giving it a go and seeing how that goes as well.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk a bit about Orange Mathematics, because I mean, that album's it's pretty nuts, man. I would kind of liken it to being, punched in the face over and over again, kind of in a good way, if you know what I mean.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, like I know what you mean. Whenever I write music, I try to write music that I get a kick out of. So if I've written that album, it's basically exactly what I want to hear, because it sounds really strange, but like I jam my own tunes kind of regularly just to, either to go back and change ideas. With Orange Mathematics, the process was really quick. Like I wrote that whole album very, very quickly, space of like a couple of weeks. Just sat, 3 a.m. in the bedroom, just jamming loads of riffs out and turned it into an album. I think the thing it suffered from in that sense was that it didn't have a continuous kind of flow order. I'm coming up to bagpipes, by the way. You'll probably hear them in the background, but that's probably the most Scottish thing as well.
We'll leave it in, and this will be just the quirky part of it.
Yeah. So yeah, with Orange Mathematics, I think the biggest regret I have was the flow of the record from start to finish, and that's something that I've considered on our upcoming music more as times kind of went on. Other than that, I was pretty happy with how it turned out for a kind of DIY record. It's been a pretty mind-blowing response. So, yeah, sorry, if you want to get into the specifics of that, fire away. Any more questions? I
mean, let's talk about, before I forget about that, because the artwork's quite hypnotic.
Yep.
So tell us a bit about that.
Literally a Google stock image of an op art that I loved. And I said to Mitchell, who's our designer, he's was the bass player in my other band, Section. We're really good friends. I basically trust him with everything design related. He's really on his game when it comes to design. I just said to him, I was like, Mitchell, I really want to use this image for the Frontier album, which is going to be called Orange Mathematics. So he took the stock image and manipulated everything based around that. So he was kind of anchored and limited as to what he could do, because I was set on using this one image which he hadn't generated. And it just turned out that Over ended up using the same image on their album, which came out after Orange Mathematics. So they black and white, basically the whole image was put in black and white, and they used that for their cover as well. And apparently their designer was really distraught that they ended up using it, but at the same time he shouldn't have picked an op art from Google Images. If he's been paid as a professional designer, he must have been gutted. Shame. Great band though, check them out.
That's quite funny though. It's interesting. So explain to me the dynamics of the band. So it's you that does the instrumentation. Is Chad then currently in America?
Yes, so I write, record, mix, everything. and I've done that on our subsequent releases. Chad basically just does all his vocals from his home studio over in St. Louis, Missouri, and then he sends me all the files back. After I've got all the files or whatever, it goes off to mastering, and then that's the complete record. But on the next kind of lot of music, he's sent clips and stuff, like just lo-fi phone clips of audio, and even in those I've been able to kind of tune in on moments or gaps in songs where I've thought it really needs to have like a part in there, because I've been listening to the instrumentals over and over and over, and I feel like I've got an idea of what it needs as well. He's basically he gets 90%, 95% of what I have in mind down, but sometimes just that little bit extra guidance or feedback to him can help him produce something that's just like insane. So we work a bit on the basis of feedback as well. It's not like when everything's done, it's set in stone and that's it. Like I put the record to the guys as well, the rest of the band, to get their feedback before it's like all set in stone. I came up with like five iterations of our album, Unloved, which is our new album, new second album that's coming out, and it took a little bit of time to make sure everything was exactly what it was. Like, you write things you feel like are filler or could be better. So I bin stuff off the fly. I don't like sit and force a track to be finished. If I don't like it in the moment when I'm recording, I just go back and delete everything and start again, build it from the ground up, or build everything around one riff that I liked. So yes, sorry, I've diverged a bit from your dynamic. Everybody else, dynamic question. Everybody else, Dan lives in Glasgow. Owen lives in Edinburgh with me. He's moving. Well, he doesn't live with me, but he lives in Edinburgh as I'm here. He's going to be moving to Glasgow probably this year at some point. Callum is also from Edinburgh, but he lives in Portugal, and he's moving to Germany because he's starting a master's. He's doing a master's in computational linguistics. He's a language guy, so he's really useful on tour, because when we go about Europe and stuff, it's really good. If you can't speak French to the in-house sound engineer, he's like there. He's able to help out. It's really useful in that sense. And the band it's not just like the band, it's the team either. We have a few other guys involved. Like I said, Mitchell's the design guy. Oh, I'm walking past a guy with a saxophone now. This is great. But if you can get that in the podcast.
It's a music show, so,
Yeah, it's perfect. Back in track. Yeah, there's two other guys as well, really important to the band, and that's basically our dude on the road, Callum. We've got 3 Callums involved in Frontierer. We have photography Callum / digital design Callum. We have bassist Callum, and we have driver lighting guy Callum, who's again the other 2 Callums, the photographer and the driver and crew guy. They're just as important, especially now that it's basically become a live element's been added. They're really integral to helping that, and they've been like outstanding. So it's really cool. There's a wide dynamic, man.
So see, like for example, when the Collapse was that at that point, was that just you that was doing all the instrumentation, and then you just moved on to like having like a full band?
Well, it's always been me that's, yeah, well, I mean, I from a writing perspective, it's always been me, and it is me doing the writing on subsequent releases. But yeah, there wasn't a band formed until we got our first show offer, which was to play UK Tech Fest. So it was just me and Chad. Like, we just sort of thought it was going to be an online project with the 2 of us, and then when we got offered shows and stuff after Orange Mathematics came out, we were like, decided to kind of assemble a band, and Section had kind of fallen apart because the band members didn't get on. So me and Owen were still really good friends, and I was still good terms with Mitchell. I decided basically like Owen would play drums, and it's kind of a bit more along the lines of music. He likes to play on drums, so it's just quite a good fit.
I can see what you mean. And how do you think Do you think it's changed much? I mean, if you're still writing all the stuff, it's maybe not so different, but like, do you think it has changed going from that kind of online thing only to doing the full band thing?
Well, no, it definitely has. That's what I'm saying. It's 100%. The rest of the guys, Dan, Owen, and Callum, bassist Callum, it's changed it for the better, definitely. Because my aim, really, I guess, my aim in general has to be in a band that's able to tour and stuff and play shows on good terms. And I mean, Dan especially, he's Dan, the man with the plan. He's a band manager and stuff, and he does all the booking side for the European element of Frontierer. He just assembles everything. He's fantastic. He's pro at what he does, and he does that for a living. So it's a real asset to have in the band. Everybody's got their own like inner niche kind of skill that they bring to the project, and it's really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said the upcoming album was called Unloved. So tell us about that. Like, how does it differ from Orange Mathematics?
Yeah, okay, so it is definitely different, but it's heavier. But it's got a bit more to it. I mean, I drew out some of the electronic influences I had on like IALCCA, on Orange Mathematics, brought a little bit more of that. It is genuinely, it's more intense. It's a longer piece as well, which makes it's going to probably be harder listening. I'll be surprised if people feel like they can even get through half of it. It is very full on. But at the stage I was at with writing, I felt like I needed to kind of continue down that same path of just, building up a big wall of pummeling, face punching music. So yeah, I mean, I can't really describe how different it is without letting you hear it. We played one of the tracks off it, Glitcher, which will be a single, and we played that on a recent mini tour around Europe, and it seemed to go down really well. So I guess if you've got any more kind of specific questions on the record or whatever, I can probably ask those. But without you obviously hearing it, it's hard for me to kind of describe it without making weird noises that sound like a whammy pedal going up and down for 10 minutes,
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I was just trying to kind of get a feel for, like how this one might sound and that. But Orange Mathematics came out in 2015, I believe. So why the delay between the records?
I don't really view it as a delay, to be honest. I mean, I think bands now, if you consider like classic bands or bands that have been around for like 15, 20 years, the album cycle that they work with labels is, sometimes 3-4 years, maybe longer, 5 years. Converge had like a 5-year gap on their last record. So it's probably, in order to actually have time to reflect on what I've done, to then tweak it, before I feel like it's actually ready to release. That's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is that I think, it's a good thing to have content things, and people want that online, especially with like Instagram and stuff, but there's a danger of flooding with too much content too quickly. I don't really want to get into that trap. And to be honest, even 2 years, it's only going to come up to 3 years in October this year. I mean, 3 years feels about like the right length, for you to have times between records. And of course, bands are kind of touring between them, but we've been fortunate enough that we've been able to kind of have a good ebb and flow of even content and stuff going on in between, like the record coming out and now. The social media side of things has been able to sustain itself over time. We've had shows, we've had like our first shows, we've had our first couple of little tours, we've had some really cool features. And we also did like a music video as well. We didn't do a music video for the release because it wasn't a priority, and obviously because everybody's geographically spaced out. But I think sometimes working with a reverse order on a release can really benefit you. I think if you come out so early with 3 videos lined up and in the bag, and then singles designed, and it's sometimes good to just space things out and do stuff on the fly with a release, because you can create stuff that you couldn't have done before. You're able to reflect on it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think the way the world is now with the internet, a lot of people have like come to expect regular releases just because of how like easy it's become. I suppose for like a long time, like, you know, there was like experimental and other musicians who'd like, you know, had released like one or more albums a year consistently for quite a few years. An example I had on Paul Lemos from Control Bleeding, and asked him if he could go back in time and talk to his younger self, like what he would say. And he said he would say to slow down, you know, because, you know, he released a lot, you know, and now he's not happy with all of it. But it's different now even, because in these times when you can like post a track online almost instantly, the temptation's then even more. But then for some people, they turn it to their advantage, because there is people that, you know, build audiences by consistently releasing songs, you know.
It does work, and I mean, I don't want to get into like a big debate about supposed death of the album and all this sort of stuff. It does work for bands releasing singles, you know, and generating what you would call hype. But at the end of the day, people will always react more to an album than they will to a single in this kind of music, I'd say, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but based on my experiences, that would be the case. You know, there's been a lot of bands, especially bands that have come up, become bigger, signed to labels, who maybe released a single around the time maybe like bands like Periphery were coming up, released a single, and then people have been so hyped up for the record, then there's been so much internal politics within the band lineup has changed, you know, they've taken 4 or 5 years to release something of that singles era, and then it just falls flat on its face because the band or the band leader or whatever has been stubborn to kind of disregard what they've done. You know, they think, you know, that thing that's 5 years old is completely the same, has the same relevancy as it, you know, as today. Which might be true, because I think, you know, music shouldn't be classed within an era. Like, timeless music is timeless music, regardless of when you listen to it, you know. And that's what I would love to create. But you had a point there with regards to how much you write and stuff, with that last band reference you made. It's not really a secret, I've said it in like in other interviews and stuff as well, but I've recorded and finished off a third record as well. So I've got like 28 something, 39 new Frontierer songs sitting kind of in the back foot. And I've done an album for my band section, I've done another EP as well, like a kind of post-rock EP for my other band, Weave. So I write a lot, and I go through spells of like bursts of writing creativity purely because that's what I feel in the moment. I'm not writing a lot of music to say that I have a lot of music and I want to try and grow my band based on that. I mean, it's just a consequence of being able to have ideas in my head. So with the third record, I don't foresee me holding that record for, you know, I could hold it for 3-4 years after Unloved comes out this year or whatever, but I don't foresee there being such a big like time gap, you know, between them. I think that the third record, which is we're talking about calling it or Oxidized. There's a track on Unloved which is Unloved and Oxidized. It kind of links, but it's not a double album or anything like that. It's got a different production style. It's still heavy, but it's a bit more stripped back. With that album, you know, that might come out a year, 2 years, less than that. It depends. I think anything less than a year probably unlikely, but it's there. I've written it, and on the subject of bands writing loads and loads of stuff, you know, Nine Inch Nails, like Trent Reznor writes buckets and buckets of music and has released loads of records. You know, not necessarily saying all of them are great or necessarily all of them are bad, but if you feel like writing, write. If you don't, if you have writer's block, you know, it's as simple as that, really.
Yeah, and I suppose then you get bands that take the piss out of this whole regular releasing thing altogether. I'm thinking of the legendary Pink Dots, actually.
I don't think I've heard of that band, but I don't know how many albums they release, like 2-3 albums in a year or something like
that. Sometimes more. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's just such a pile of music, but like, you know, a lot of it's good, but like, you know, there's just so much of it. But you mentioned this death of the album thing, and I think it depends on the genre, really.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, genres like
Electronic artists.
yeah, electronic and hip hop and stuff like that. I feel those are maybe more single driven genres, whereas like metal would be kind of more album driven. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
mean, I'm open to like the idea of that being challenged within metal. I just haven't seen it being executed in a way that it works, as well for penniless metal bands as it does for like baller rap artists. You know what I mean? It's not. It's a different. It's a different musical cultural like trait or like technique or whatever. But like I said, I'm open to seeing that being done. But I don't know if it's from your point of view. Do you think that there's bands taking that on and trying that now more and doing singles? I know a couple of bands locally in the UK who are doing that. But do you know any other bands that are doing that as well, that are making a go of that sort of format?
Not so much. I mean, to be honest, I'm still seeing a lot of albums going out. What I am seeing more of, I noticed, I think personally, is a lot of people like doing splits with each other. Like I'm seeing a lot of that happening. But I suppose that's kind of always been a thing. But I see it's much easier to do now, again, with the internet and all that sort of thing. I can see more of that.
I think a really important aspect of the album is that the album isn't just the music. And it's not for me, and it's not for any of my bands. It's not just the music. I mean, the music is 50%. Of course, you got to have tunes for a record, but art, the visual aspect of it, with the resurgence of things like vinyl, the actual physical holding of the art itself is just as important. And I mean, I'd planned loosely to do singles on like 7-inch singles for the ones that we're putting out on both bands and do like a vinyl press of those as well. But not necessarily the fact that the single is on a physical format, more that we can expand on the art idea, like the visual element of it, by having singles with art that kind of links to the main piece. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we thought about even doing that. But yeah, so that's kind of my view. I don't personally think that albums are dead or dying. I think kind of the opposite. I think when you've got a good album, especially now with so much music online, but when you've got a really good album, there's there's potential to create a crazy demand for it, and that kind of covers a wide range of listeners, like casual listeners and like hardcore, like vinyl collectors and stuff. So
yeah, and I was talking to Joe Thompson recently from Hey Colossus, and we talked about like vinyl and actually like the cassette resurgence too. I mean, the cassette thing I still don't totally get, because I remember them just from when I was younger, they were just being a pain in the arse. Most of the time the big problem was getting from song to song with them. But I mean, the vinyl resurgence I can understand more because of the quality of it than the cassette thing, but I suppose it's probably largely nostalgia driven.
Well, I mean, I guess with vinyl, more so with tape, but with vinyl as well, it's like, with tape, as you said, you're forced to kind of listen to it linearly from front to back. And with vinyl, I guess you are to an extent, but it's a pain in the arse, as you said, to skip tracks and stuff. On tape, I apologize, I'm trying to get rid of the background sound here. With where I'm at, yeah, it's a bit more of a margin more pain in the arse to skip through tracks. I've seen the tape thing as well. Like I know quite a lot of, especially a lot of hardcore bands, grindcore bands, and stuff like that doing tape. It's not for me personally. I don't know. Even if there was a demand for it, like a financial demand for it, if people were saying, "Oh, we really, really want tape," I can't really see myself. Tapes come in kind of small boxes. It's not. It doesn't feel as collector-y a thing for me, like visually and as a piece, as something like vinyl. I'll never say never. We might end up releasing some weird Frontierer shit on the tape and just putting like 50 of them out, but it's not really for me. I don't think at the moment. It's not on our plans anyway.
I know, it's just strange. I've even noticed there's record labels that have popped up that do cassette only releases now, and it's quite interesting. I mean, but that's what I still think. I still think there is a demand for physical things. Like even with books. I mean, people had said that books would be dead by now, and a lot of people do have Kindles and stuff like that. But there is still loads of people who prefer to have the physical book in their hand, and it's the same with this vinyl resurgence and things like that. I think that you won't completely get rid of I mean, I don't think you'll digitalize everything. I think just as humans, we just like to have, something physical.
I think when there's a temptation, I think there's a temptation to, think that there will always be, digital will cover, all bases and, that something's going to be wiped out because something else new is coming in with technology. Technology is more of a problem than a provider. Sorry, fire ambulance. Fire ambulance? No, that's a new thing. Fire engine. Fire ambulance, yeah. There's a temptation to sort of say that technology will eliminate a lot of those things and it's a problem rather than a provider, but I kind of see the opposite of it. And I think that, people still want CDs now. People will want vinyl. They'll want maybe tape, for example. I don't think demand will ever go completely. I think it's just ignorant to say that it's going to be gone once everything has been on Spotify. Do you know what I mean? It's shown that it's the opposite.
Yeah, and I mean, there is people that will use Spotify, but then people this is what I'll do. I'll find bands maybe on Spotify that I like, and then I will go and buy their stuff from there.
Exactly.
So the two can go hand in hand in that kind of way.
That definitely has worked for us. We've had lots of people, picked up on Apple Music or whatever, just suggestions and whatnot. They found the band page and they bought a shirt, or they've bought, when we did those one-off mugs, pillows, things they've bought stuff from the Bandcamp as well. So yeah, it's almost like a gateway. Formats and platforms are always like a gateway to finding another dimension about a band. And if you want to support them, it can lead you on to finding some other cool stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And changing gears a bit, I like to ask people this question when I remember to, and sometimes I forget.
Uh-huh.
Is there any kind of non-musical influences that you would say have had a big effect on your music?
I guess it sounds so cliche, but life experiences for sure. I mean, a lot of other factors influence it. I can't think of anything specific or direct at the moment. For me personally, I can't speak for the rest of the band members. They'll undoubtedly have their own kind of influences. No, I tell you what, if I remember that, if I think an answer to that one, I'll give you that one in text, and you can include it somewhere or something. But I don't know. I should be able to give you an example, but there are definite life experiences and personal conflicts and things that they're definitely part of that. But without going into a life story of details or whatever, I'll just kind of leave it at that. But it's definitely not all constrained to music and music only.
Yeah, and then without going into personal details, do you find that obviously there's an extreme bit of aggression of your music? Do you find that doing that kind of music for you is cathartic?
It's an outlet definitely it's definitely a stress outlet, but it's more that I'm kind of in peace doing it. There's a really silly temptation to say, you write heavy music, you must be an angry person, and I think most people at the end of the day, proper fans and stuff, know that that's probably not true at all. But yeah, I don't know, it's not even that I'm writing it because I'm necessarily angry or anything either. It's a lot of different interplaying factors. Like I said before, I sort of I air drum a lot, and I drum on my lap and stuff like that. So there's really weird things on a bus commute to previous work or whatever. I maybe come up with something just on my lap, and I'm I want to write that. There's no anger involved in that. I might subconsciously be stressed about the fact that I cannot be fucked going into work today. But that's changed now, and I don't want to feel like that. But that there could be some subconscious underlying thing. Otherwise, it's I've written a groove or a beat or something that's come out heavy, based on owning a guitar and having other influences amongst it. So yeah, I don't know if it's cathartic or not, but hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does absolutely. So, like, when do you think we could expect to hear? No, in fact, before we get to that,
Plenty of time.
why don't you tell us? Why don't you tell us about the other band you're in that you mentioned briefly?
Yeah, so I'm in another band called Section, and that band's been around longer than Frontierer. It's been around since 2008, but we never released an album. We never ever released an album. We released quite a few EPs. We did a split, and we had kind of lineup changes with vocalists a couple of times. So with that, at the moment, I've recorded an album with a new vocalist, a new lineup. Sam's the drummer. So Owen, who plays drums for Frontierer, is playing drums for Section, and also Dan, who plays guitar for Frontierer, is also going to be playing guitar for Section. So we just have a different bass player and a different vocalist. We've got a new album called Annihilated, which is going to be coming out at the end of April. First single of that's going to be out at the end of this month. Musically, it's very aggressive music, but it's a lot more along the lines of like punk and hardcore and grind and stuff, and then a bit of like again more electronic influence in the vein of like Nine Inch Nails, Aphex Twin, sort of thing. So that's going to be coming out in April, and to be honest, we're going to release that with the view that we know we're going to be on the road and stuff more with that. That's kind of why I wanted to do that, is to have a band that I can go and play more shows with, because shows are really, really good fun. So we're going to be touring with that. We're going to be more available because people are based locally, but we're not going to we're not going to tour it to death. At least I don't want to tour to death to the point where it's like the band like cyclically comes to the same place every 3 to 6 months. You're always going to get a chance to see them. I don't like that. There's bands that do that, and I don't really like that. You have to give things breathing space. So I'm really excited for Section, but to be honest, it's been so long since we released anything. It's a different lineup. It feels entirely like a new band. Mitchell's still on the design element of it. He used to design all the stuff for Section previously, and he's designed all the artwork with friend Sean, who's a photographer. So basically all the artwork for that, again, it's totally different to what we've done for Frontierer. We've got on Section, it's all basically been photographed in Inverclyde on like large format film. So the print resolution is like, the detail's like insane. So it's completely different. It's going to be really heavy, but it's not going to be, it doesn't sound the same as Frontierer. From people who have heard it, they say, it doesn't sound like Frontierer, but it sounds like I've mixed it, if that makes sense. That's the link,
Yeah.
Production staff.
And what was the other band as well you'd mentioned?
Yeah, so I have like another project with everybody, all of them kind of again live in other countries now. It's called We.
I'm noticing a theme.
Yeah, I know. It's either I've got really buff vocalists in my band as like frontmen, or everybody lives like miles away. It seems to be the two common themes. So yeah, we've got I've got a post-rock band called like We. It's just sort of, I don't know, ambient to chill stuff, a lot more electronic influence in this next release, pushing that a bit more. So basically, my friend Tyrone, who I basically write all the guitar stuff with, he lives in Berlin, but he came back over in October for a day, for like a weekend. So we had a day of jamming together and decided that we were going to write like a next release in that time period. So we ended up bashing out like 3-5 tracks, and it's going to be released probably at some point this year. I don't know when, but as I kind of said on Facebook to everyone, I was like, you're all going to want to hide me a newsfeed, because I've basically got like a new song coming out every month as of February until the end of August between both of those bands. So yeah, it's a cool project. We played shows before. We played shows in about Edinburgh. It seemed to go. People seem to enjoy it. The thing is that because Tyrone, who plays guitar, he's over in Berlin. Our bass player Gregor lives in Canada now. He's moved out to Canada. And
for God's sake.
I know. And Robert lives in Linlithgow, so he got the shit end of the stick. But we haven't really obviously had like a jam or anything in the room. It's just a case of kind of releasing music, and I think we're gonna on the next time round, maybe the end of the year, I'll take a more sort of frontiery kind of approach where Gregor can record his bass parts and send them over, and then we can write a more complete record with everybody's input rather than it just being like me and another doing like everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And like, so when is that next Frontierer album due to come out? Is it this year?
Yeah, so it's scheduled for end of July, start of August kind of time. At the moment, that might change. There's been a couple of things in the works with regards to, like, record labels have expressed interest, but I've expressed an interest in not necessarily being with a record label. So,
and owning your own masters.
Well, that's a fundamental thing. I will never relinquish that. So that's the bottom line, you know. Because Stone Cold said so. But no, I don't want to, relinquish that. There's sacrifice, but I appreciate that there's other band members involved. Everybody has to have a say and an opinion in things. And the bottom line of it for me is, it's kind of like financially, it's a financial thing as well. You can always take a risk with a label, and view it as additional PR, and then you're giving up 80% of your revenue for this supposed PR monster that's going to make your band like a big thing. And fortunately, like, the labels that have got in touch are ones that I think could really provide a huge boost to what it is we want to do with the band. But I mean, when it comes to the day-to-day, Chad has 2 children. He's recently split with his wife. He's got his priorities. He's older, not to be ageist, but like we're all at different stages of our lives. So any kind of record deal, label deal, if there was to be one, has to be one that works around everybody's lifestyles, without going into too much specifics. So yeah, that's the timeline. It's going to be around August, provided there isn't some way where we feel it's beneficial to not release independently our music. And the fact that we've got two records as well, that changes things too. Because I'm saying it's not going to be out. I don't think it's going to be out for 3, 4, 5 years. If something changes that, it could be that it isn't out for, I necessarily might not have the full say in that. But I enjoy along with other band members having majority control over all aspects. We have a really good team internally, so it's good to have that. And I've had friends that worked for record labels with bands that I really like, who more often than not it tends to be a negative experience, but I appreciate there are positive experiences as well that lots of bands do have. It's just something that has to be kind of weighed up at the moment. I'm looking forward to it coming out though, and then not like a weight off my shoulders, but I'll be glad to not see the back of it either, but just for people to get some sort of feedback on it as well. You know what I mean, on what I've created. It's been such a while. I started writing that record start of last year, February, maybe even a bit earlier than that. To tell you the truth, I started writing it when Orange Mathematics came out. So yeah, it's been in the works for that long.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the music industry has changed so much, and we still don't know what the end game will be, because we've moved into this streaming world, and record companies are having to change with it because people can now build their own audience online. I say it all the time, but it's not the 1980s anymore. Where you're going to be some band that's practically no one has heard of, and you're going to play some big show at whatever club, and this Mr. Big from whatever record label is going to be just there in the audience, ready to throw money at you and to make you famous. I mean, that's not the case anymore. So many record labels actually won't even look at you unless you've already built some kind of following. And that's the other thing. I've spoke to people who are, they make music on smaller labels, and because the label owns their masters, they've told me that they aren't really making any money at all. I mean, the way it is now, a lot of labels are actually becoming defunct. And it's not even that hard to find a distributor to put your music on, all the digital platforms,
Yeah, I mean, I find myself having this conversation when I've spoken to record labels, and they'll explain what they'll do, what they'll contribute. And without naming names, it's like a lot of what they say is stuff we are already doing or can do ourselves. It's just that we give you 80% of our money to do that, which seems crazy. So, the bottom line is, the band's currently turning a profit, a good profit. Any deal has to grow that. It can't cut that back. And I think anyone that thinks that opportunity can't be created independently is really foolish, because you can, but it's a factor of it's a factor of people can be lazy, and they just want something and they'll do whatever it is to get it. If it means throwing a paycheck to fix a problem, they'll do it. But I don't see it that way. As I said, if we're making money as a band, it's allowing us to tour. We all have day jobs, or we all have our own businesses that we do, some of which are in music, some are outside of music. A record label contract is a mortgage. It's not. It is. It's not free money. It's a mortgage. So it's like going to the bank and the bank saying to you, we'll give you that much money to pursue your business venture, deal, or whatever. And that's fine if it works for some bands, but it doesn't work for me. And it's I don't know. You get into a whole philosophical debate about it, but at the same time, you've got to be cautious of, not be cocky and overconfident about the product or the art that you have, if that's your goal. Because we've released one album. It's been received better than anything I could have ever hoped for. There's undoubtedly an expectation that record 2 should go beyond that, achieve the same, achieve more, whatever people sort of think. But, in reality, will it do that? I have no idea. Does the record label know that? They have no idea. They'll listen to the record and make up their decision. They've expressed interest based on one album doesn't mean that they're going to have the same confidence in the rest of the material. It comes down, there's so much bullshit, bullshit associated with record labels, and that I wouldn't want to deal with, I wouldn't want anyone to have a say in what I produce as art, because they're wrong, because I know what's right and what should be the way it is. I'm happy to take opinion on that. I'm happy to take a producer's input and stuff, things that can genuinely create it. But if I have a track and some label guy in a suit behind his desk says, it needs to be more like this. Can you do more? Something arbitrary, can you do more singing on this next album? Then no, I can't, because that's not what I'm writing. You can like it or lump it. I've a really hard stance on it, man, but it's just one of those things. I'm so passionate about what I do and what I write that I'll bend a bit, but the ruler will snap if pushed too much, and then I'll just end up writing a fourth record about how I'm angry once my contract's turned up and I'm pissed at losing so much money. It is worth saying though, I do think labels and stuff, I know the initial question was talking about the music itself, but I think labels do have a lot to offer bands, and it depends on the band, it depends on your personal and life circumstances. But if you're doing really well independently, you can suck it up and think, burn bright, burn fast, you do stuff independently, it'll go well. Or, you can view a record label as something that might add more longevity, might expand your fan base. But in today's world, a label is just a multiplication growth factor on your band's independent reach, I think. So you sign the deal and then you times your growth by 3 or 4 or whatever it is, and that's your label's input, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you made me think of a couple of things, some labels I know are doing deals where after a certain time period they're giving bands their masters back. So I know it's changing in that way, but what you're saying is about having someone from a record company changing the way you would do your music. And it reminds me of, I was listening to a podcast before with Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, and he was talking about how when they were recording like Sweet Child of Mine, they were listening back to it, and like this like record company guy was like, oh, it needs more chords, and so Izzy Stradlin went and got a guitar, and he gave it to him, and he said, here, show us what you mean. And then the guy looked dumbfounded, and he was like, oh, right, do you not play the guitar? And, you know, obviously he didn't, and just that shut that shit right down.
Yeah, that's quite cool. I mean, I don't really have an opinion on Guns N' Roses, but that's quite funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to come across like it's like a war on record labels or whatever. It's just a caution, and it's I don't know, like knowing what I want out of the whole situation. What I want is, if the band grows, for everybody to maintain financial stability, to be able to keep doing this and enjoying it without getting into debt. And I think that's, you know, at the end of the day, your label A&R rep gets paid a salary a year. Why doesn't the band get the same thing? Do you know what I mean? Like you're working for a label. Like you're representing them. You're allowing them to grow as much as they're allowing you to grow. And that's the thing. It's times went on so much. With independent labels, it's completely different. I appreciate. I'm talking about the major ones, the big ones.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about the bigger ones. With the independent ones, it's different. Like, they're really flexible on things. You know, we talked about doing one-off distribution kind of deals and stuff, and like a one-off press limited to a label only that's like fixed at, you know, 200 copies and stuff like that. You know, as an additional creative outlet more than a business idea. You know, the business idea comes along with it. Like the you know, however lucrative it is. I mean, bands aren't, you know, metal bands aren't lucrative. You know, they're not, they're definitely, it's like, they're at the bottom of the pile. But there isn't a reason why any good music could return a modest income. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, we'll face it when we come to the situation. I'll face it with the guys, and we'll see what happens. But, you know, if somebody wants to turn Frontierer into a pop punk band, they can get fucked. You know what I mean, man? Like, I'm just like, there's no danger. Like, there's some things I just will not bend for in any record label contract, regardless of the money. So yeah, it's a principle thing, but it's maybe a bit either arrogant or naive. But I'll learn my way. I'll learn the hard way if I'm wrong.
I think you're right. I think it's a way to stop yourself from hating yourself further down the line, because you see even all these pop stars that go absolutely crazy. I mean, Britney Spears went bonkers, Miley Cyrus did. I believe Katy Perry is in the middle of a very public YouTube breakdown.
Yeah.
You know, like, so like even like these people, you know, are getting told what to do left, right and centre at an extreme, obviously high level. Yeah. And it seems to be driving them up the fucking wall.
Yeah.
You know
yeah. No, it's true. It's a shame. It's a shame that it gets people to that. I mean, it's a lot to be said for that sort of thing in metal. You know, I mean, there are people that take their lives that have been in, you know, big touring bands, even the smaller bands. Anytime there's a death or whatever, it's associated with somebody in the music community. It's always deep. It's deep sadness. You know, there's been a bit of that recently. It's a total shame. Mental health needs to be discussed. You know, more openly, a lot more, I think. And if metal music's a way to, I think metal music is a really good way to, for me anyway, it's definitely something that's kept my mental health in check in a lot of ways. And me and Owen can have a discussion. And, you know, we talk about people who work and stuff, and all they do is kind of work, and, you know, they're maybe a lot more settled and stuff. But we're like, when they don't have music in their life, I'm like, how do they not, like, it's just like, how are they not in a band? Like, what do they do? Like, what do they do with their time? Like, I find it hard to like relate or whatever. It's odd, but I think I'm kind of drifting again more off the point here. So I'll stop.
That's fine. I often call this the tangent cast because I'm terrible for getting off in tangents. It's kind of the point of the show.
Yeah, it's a good discussion. Like, it's a good discussion to have, like, just about everything. But yeah, Karen, sorry.
Yeah, no, I just like to keep it broad and conversational anyway. So, like, as we're coming towards the end here, can we expect to see Frontierer touring this year?
Yes, I think so. In what capacity that is, I don't know. We have we have Dan. We have two Dans. We've got three Callums and two Dans involved in our team. It's really funny. There'll never be more than one Ped though. Or maybe we'll get Chad Kroger and we do the guest vocals and have two Chads. But
that would be an interesting record.
Yeah, it would be. So we've got Dan DeFonts at Continental Concerts in the US. He's been working on a couple of things for us to get out over to the US, and that's one of the things we're having a label, whatever can really help, get you in the country. Most importantly, when it comes to America, because the visa process is a nightmare. So mainly the financial side of it is just a nightmare. So we've got him involved. We've been chatting about that. I don't know if it will be America this year, when that will be, maybe early next year, hopefully. But we've been talking about potentially doing, I'd like to have done like 20 dates, like do Europe and then be like, that's Europe done, cool, off the checklist, properly go around everywhere. So we've been talking about doing that around the time of the release, but with Chad's new job, and with American employment laws being bullshit, he gets maybe 7 days, that he can use or whatever. He has to see what he can have. And I mean, we appreciate the guy's taking his only time off in the year to come out and, rough it in a van and stay places. But he enjoys it. He loves coming out here. He always says it feels like UK and Europe is like a second home for him. He really enjoys being out here. So, he's just finding a balance with the kids and stuff. So hopefully August time we'll be somewhere in the world. And then beyond that, maybe early in the next year. And beyond that, honestly, like, who knows? If the right offer, the right tour package or whatever comes along and everyone's available and we've costed it works out, it checks out, then we could do anything, but we are kind of limited with the geography and, with Chad's kind of working schedule. With Section, I'll be out with them. I'll be out with them until the end of the year, and that'll be 2 weeks worth of touring probably in Europe. And I'm just going to take that as it goes. I mean, I'm hoping, I kind of want Section to take off a bit more so that I can be out regularly and playing shows more regularly and doing things. Just it might be that Frontierer converges back into an online only thing at some point. If it doesn't make sense, otherwise it might end up doing that. I hope it doesn't, but it just depends on Chad's availability. I can't expect, like, Dan's in a band, and Dan's a band manager. He's out the road with his bands, he manages and stuff. He wants to be out like constantly, and it's a bit unfair if the guy's like, if it's his dream to have him tethered down when he's so hungry for like that sort of opportunity that he's kind of like, Frontier plays 7 shows in a year. It's absolutely pittance on what other bands do. But at the same time, when we do get together and we do play shows, the shows are incredible. Like, venues sell out. There's a demand for it. Like, by stripping the supply, you generate this huge demand, and it's great. So yeah, I don't know, basically. I don't know. I want to play shows as much as I can, but it just depends on loads of factors.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're in Glasgow, I'll come and see you. I will definitely come and see you. Is there anything else you want to plug here at the end that we haven't got to?
Thanks, man. I mean, no, not really. Just that we're hugely grateful to everybody who has bought merch and stuff through Bandcamp or come out to any of the shows in Europe and all the publicity and stuff. Like I said, we don't have like a PR team or anything like that. I do all the PR. Like, I enjoy it. I love it. Like, when a release comes out, I just sit at my desk for 3 hours and put new music out, like, everywhere. And it's great. So, any PR agencies and stuff that have given us essentially free time because they like the band. These guys get paid to publicize bands based on the budgets they get. If they're giving us time for nothing, it's hugely appreciated. What I will say is that, as I said, I've set up my own record studio in Edinburgh, which is Outlier Sound, and I've got quite a few cool bands that I'm working with over the course of the year, and I kind of want to be working with more. So if anyone's interested, if they have a band and they want it to sound unlistenably heavy, get in touch, and I'd be interested to work on your record with you. So, yeah, I guess that about covers it.
Nice. We'll put a link in the show notes. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been really good, man. I appreciate it, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sorry we couldn't get everybody, obviously, in the one room or the one Skype, but with everybody's timetables and schedules and stuff like that, I thought it would probably be more logistically feasible for myself to come on and have a chat with you.
So my thanks again to Pedram for coming on the show. I really enjoyed the conversation. So that's it for this time. Thanks for listening. The website, BresnixCast.com. I'll spell it for you. BresnixCast.com. And let's finish by getting musically punched in the face by Frontierer to finish off. So this is Tunnel Jumper.